Okay, folks, everybody remember CTKO. That's what's going to organize this part 2 about me as a performer. I got nothing to write it down on. Chuck. Oh, God. What was the T? Chuck. Karaoke. Only you. Chuck. I guess we're going to leave out the T unless I get inspired. Okay, CTKO. So this is part 2 about me as a performer. Because I remembered some important things I hadn't talked about. I taught college right out of grad school, and I was not a performer yet. No, I had not leaned into my performance side at all. I taught great classes, and they were very engaging. I got people talking, but it was all about participation. It wasn't about performing anything. But one of my colleagues, Chuck White, was tall, handsome, wore a sport coat every time, was a rock and roll guy, and even though he was brilliant, and his lectures about psychology went totally over the heads of his students, totally over their heads, and the girls would just sit there drooling over Chuck White. And I watched one of his lectures once, and I said, man, you have those women, the women especially, right where you want them. And he said, man, it's the closest thing I'm ever going to be to a rock and roll star. Yeah, it was rock and roll. So, okay, so my rock and roll story is, what does it have to do with tea? It had too much, but oh, good. See, it's all falling. CTKO. The rock and roll story is a poem of mine called Too Much. Too much. And I've always been too much for people, too big, too noisy, too willing to be on. I irritate people. I've been told you're too intense, more than once. So I wrote a poem probably 30 years ago called Too Much. It was before I ever went to Asheville. And I performed it several times. And I especially performed it with a guy named Tony, is another T. Godwin was a brilliant guitarist. And we worked on that sucker. And I felt like I was a musician because I was working so closely with a musician, saying, I think I need a little more of this here, a little more of that there. And he was brilliant, sharp guy, and he'd push back, and we worked it out, and we killed it. Oh my God. When we came off stage, 150 people on their feet screaming for that poem, he said, we rocked. And we had, and it was all about claiming your power. And basically it was a very high attitude, rock and roll attitude, saying, if you think I'm too much, watch this. This is going to be more too much than you expected. So CT, that's Chuck, and T. K is karaoke. At that church I went to at Jubilee in Asheville, North Carolina, I was one of the singers, choir. We were very devoted to it, worked really hard on our songs, and every year, after about 23 years of that church being around, every year they would throw a big birthday party. And one year, what was going to happen at the birthday party was a karaoke contest. And what kept Jubilee running, you knew that you didn't make friends at Jubilee with that huge crowd just by going to church. You had to join a team. And there were all kinds of teams that kept the church going. And ours was the singers team. So we were kind of ringers for a karaoke contest. But a week, and we were going to do Summer Lovin' from Greece. But a week, and I was going to wear my leather jacket and be one of the backup singers. We were part of the gang. John Travolta, playing Johnny, which was my name. Well, the guy playing Johnny bailed on us about a week before the show, maybe 2 weeks. And we sat, looked very glum, looking around at each other. Our lead singer has bailed on us. How do we we just throw in the towel and say we can't do it. And out of the blue, and I was not a strong singer, even in the singers. They knew that I couldn't quite, I'd go flat. I was not trustworthy. And out of the blue, this voice came through me. I don't know where it came from. It was like a Hanta Yo voice from that first talk where I said, I could do it. And they all looked at me like, no, you can't. You're not even a good singer. And I said, yeah, I got a feeling about this. I think I can do it. And the woman who was playing lead, the Olivia Newton-John role, was a very strong singer, very trained. And she took me under her wing and shaped me up. And the night of the show, oh man, I was a rock and roll star that night. And I had people come up to me afterwards saying, I had no idea you were such a good singer. And I said, I'm not. It was something else. Something else took over tonight. So that's the karaoke. These two tapes were inspired by my brother Dennis cheering me on. And Dennis, this one's about our mom. Because my relationship with my mom was pretty tormented, pretty complicated. She gave me two messages in life. One was, you're the little prince. We waited 9 years for you. You're the miracle baby. You could do anything you want to do. And the second one was, you're a continual and ongoing disappointment to me. I turned down a scholarship to medical school was the iconic moment of disappointing her. But in her later years, she softened and she turned around and decided she was glad I had been who I was. So I was a Toastmaster. Toastmasters are the folks who practice public speaking. And I was actually in two Toastmasters groups in Chicago. Had to be, Chicago. One was just a regular Toastmasters group, and one was professional speakers, because I was a professional corporate trainer, and that is performance. And I actually also trained and coached corporate trainers. So I was in both. And there would be two big competitions for the Toastmasters. In the fall, it was coaching. I won that one, but I was kind of a ringer because I already did that. But out of 1,500 Toastmasters in Chicago, I won that contest. But the real big prize was motivational speaking. It was mostly rah-rah, pumping people up, call to action, go for it, you can do it. And I did something really out of the box. Our mom had died, and even though it was a wonderful death, she did it so great and she was so ready to go. And our relationship had gotten perfectly complete at that point. And I still grieved like a son of a gun. It ambushed me. I was not prepared. Since then, I've seen how much I'm her, how much great stuff I got from her. So it makes sense that her death would have been so hard for me. But I was wounded. I was hurting. And part of my healing process was to work up, 10-minute speech for Toastmasters. And it was called Only You. And it was about how I got the message from her. Now, this totally ties the whole thing together. Because the Only You message was, there are things in this world that only you can do. You're meant to do them. I trust that you can. And I told that story. I think I probably told the story about how the relationship had been complicated but got better over time. And I sang. Again, I'm not a strong singer. This is long before the karaoke thing. But I think it's the Platters. I'll look it up, which R&B group, doo-wop group did Only You. Only You. So I'm going to sing a little more of that. But I went several levels through that motivational speaking contest and kept winning and winning. And a couple levels before the championship, I got knocked out. And my friends who were there said, yours was easily the best speech, but it's not what they expected. It's not what they expected. It wasn't rah-rah. It was sweet. It was poignant. It was touching. And you sang, You don't sing in Toastmasters. It's like there's no crying in baseball. There's no singing in Toastmasters. So it was so out of the box they couldn't let you in. But it was pretty wonderful and life-changing for me. It not only didn't just heal my grief about my mom, but nailed down for me what I had gotten from her and why I now know that I can do things that people say I can't do. So I sang, and I'll go easy on you, just do a little bit of it. Only you can make this world seem right. Only you can hush your gripe. Only you can make the darkness bright. Only you and you alone, lean into it, John, can make my dreams come true. You're my dream come true. My one and only you. Thanks, Mom. Guess you're behind all this, aren't you? Yeah, good. Thank you.